The serial killer mystery genre typically follows a narrative structure that involves a series of murders and a suspenseful cat and mouse game between the serial killer and law enforcement, while reflecting on the thematic patterns of psychological exploration of both the detectives and the serial killers. At the same time, the genre often utilizes elements of suspense, character archetypes, and realistic settings. These elements are most notably seen in Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder, released in 2003, and in David Fincher's Zodiac, released in 2007. It's a genre worthy of study due to its enduring popularity and its ability to reflect on societal anxieties, moral dilemmas, and the complexities of human nature. Memories of Murder is a South Korean film based on the country's first known serial killer case that occurred between 1986 and 1991 that terrified the nation. The film follows two local detectives and a detective from Seoul struggling to solve a series of brutal rapes and murders in the rural town of Gyeongbin province in Korea. During the film, Bong reflects on the oppressive nature of South Korea's government during the end of Chang Dong-hwan's military dictatorship in 1988. Therefore, he describes that the film is about the chaos of the 80s and a reflection of how Korean society functioned. For instance, the detectives in the story reflect a corrupt system that perpetrates cruelty through violent investigation methods, highlighting the unchecked power of the police state during this time. Therefore, the film was released during the new Korean cinema era, which marked a significant shift in South Korean filmmaking that began in the late 1990s and continued into the early 2000s, which was characterized by innovative storytelling, social commentary, and international recognition. That is because directors were pushing boundaries, blending genres, and tackling social issues with a fresh perspective, which is clearly seen in Memories of Murder with its international success and with a blend of psychological drama and dark comedy. On the other hand, Zodiac tells the story of the manhunt for the Zodiac Killer, a serial killer who terrorized the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s and early 70s, focusing on the obsessive investigations by cartoonist Robert Graysmith and detectives David Toschi and William Armstrong. Phoenix Pictures' involvement in Fincher's Zodiac was significant in shaping the film's production and creative direction. This included writing the screenplay based on police reports and interviewing people who were involved in the case. Furthermore, Fincher reflects the significant and sudden rise of serial killers with figures like the Zodiac Killer, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy in the late 1960s and 1970s. This rise in the amount of serial killers was due to the widespread social and cultural changes in post-war America that may have contributed to the emergence of such individuals during that period. Additionally, the technological limitations of the 1970s and 80s may have also contributed to the law enforcement's inability to capture these serial killers. For instance, this is reflected through the traditional investigation methods in Zodiac as well as in Memories of Murder, with the absence of DNA testing at that time in the country. Memories of Murder and Zodiac are worthy of study because they're both based on real-life unsolved serial murder cases, and neither film provides a definitive closure regarding on the killer's identity. Furthermore, they masterfully explore the themes of obsession and the psychological impact of unsolved mysteries through distinct cultural and cinematic approaches. Not to mention, both of these films share the essential element of suspense, a crucial element in the genre, that is used as an essential tool to create a sense of urgency and to keep audiences engaged in the investigation as it unfolds. And understanding the use of suspense can reveal the art of effective storytelling and the emotional impact that it can have on the audience. Therefore, in Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder and David Fincher's Zodiac, suspense is elected through key narrative elements in the murder mystery genre. To begin with, the interrogation process is a key narrative aspect in the murder mystery genre since it allows authorities to uncover hidden details about the crimes. Thus, Bong and Fincher both utilize detective-suspect interrogations as a key narrative device in the genre to heighten suspense. In Memories of Murder, suspense is achieved through cinematography and editing. During the interrogation scene between the detectives and the suspect Hyung-gu, cinematographer Kim Hyung-ko starts by establishing a ghastly dark environment using low-key lighting and with the combination of white lighting on the faces of the characters. This approach creates a anomalous tone inside the interrogation room, effectively establishing a chiaroscuro effect. This visual style evokes feelings of uncertainty and tension which are essential to create suspense. As the scene progresses, the questions get more intense, applying more and more pressure in an attempt to force a confession. During this sequence, Kim's medium close-ups of both Detective So and Hyung-gu gradually zoom in, creating a sense of escalating tension, amplifying their facial expressions and intensifying their emotional pressure in that moment. Also, the gradual zoom in, which slowly turns the medium close-up into a close-up, steadily builds suspense over time, drawing the audience deeper into the intense psychological conflict between the characters. Additionally, the fast-paced cutting between the two characters by editor Kim Sum-in further adds to the suspense. As the cuts become quicker, the scene feels more chaotic and unpredictable, keeping viewers on edge and reinforcing the overall tense atmosphere. Interestingly, at the end of this sequence, Detective Cho throws a kick at the suspect. Through this, Bong demonstrates the police brutality at the time in South Korea, reflecting the societal issues under the authoritarian regime in the 1980s. This type of brutality towards people, both innocent and suspected, can also be seen consistently throughout the film, which clearly depicts the context of a regime in which power goes unchecked and the strong freely tread on the weak. In Zodiac, during the interrogation between detectives and suspect Arthur Lee Allen, Fincher also builds suspense through cinematography, but particularly through the use of composition with a combination of sound design. At the beginning of the interrogation, Arthur answers the questions confidently, showing no signs of nervousness. As a result, the shot types only consisted of medium shots and medium close-ups, which maintain a neutral tone. However, after he reveals something very suspicious, cinematographer Harry Savides employs a series of close-ups capturing all the detectives' reactions to that statement and immersing the audience into that moment. This alters the scene to a more suspenseful tone, since it emphasizes the detective's shifting perception of Arthur as a suspect, highlighting their growing suspicion. Moreover, Sadiv's use of the Thomson Viper film stream camera helped him to create that immersive effect, thanks to its synthetic quality described by him. And unlike the interrogation scene in Memories of Murder, Sadiv's pointed out that he wanted to create a sense of anxiety and immersion without us having to resort to more camera movement or quick cutting. Sound designer Ren Kleiss also helped to build suspense. Similarly, at the beginning when Arthur says nothing suspicious, Kleiss subtly adds the background noise of the refinery that they're in. But right after that statement, the background noise suddenly disappears, highlighting the suspense, since silence draws attention to his words, making the moment feel more intense. Fundamentally, a murder mystery must have a murder. Therefore, in each film, there are scenes depicting the victim's vulnerability before being killed or harmed by the serial killer. Hence, both directors create suspense by immersing the audience in the victim's perspectives through the use of cinematography and creating a sense of anticipation. As Alfred Hitchcock stated, there is no terror in the bang, only in the anticipation of it. Here, Bong first does this through the use of camera movements. As the woman is walking through the rice paddies, cinematographer Kim follows her gaze with a camera movement, slowly following her line of sight as she turns around to look at the fields. This not only puts the viewers directly in her perspective, but also makes the audience connect with her fear and uncertainty, enhancing the suspense and creating a strong sense of unease. The art of creating suspense is also the art of involving the audience. Therefore, later in the shot, Bong decides to reveal the head of the killer, which immediately depicts the woman's vulnerability and further evokes a sense of anticipation due to the dramatic irony of the moment, as viewers are aware of the immediate threat while she remains unaware. Then, Kim's close-up of her face captures her worrying expressions while simultaneously obscuring the surrounding environment from the audience. This framing creates a sense of uncertainty and anticipation, heightening the tension as viewers are left unaware of where the killer might be, creating a sense of disorientation, making the audience feel as vulnerable as the character herself. In this scene, the geographical location of the rice fields not only provided the serial killer with an opportunity to commit these crimes due to its secluded area, but also demonstrates Korea's economical state of the time, where rapid urbanization of the 1960s saw a mass migration of rural populations to cities like Seoul, driven primarily by poverty in the countryside. In Zodiac, Fincher portrays the victim's vulnerability primarily through the use of lighting. Here we can see Kathleen Jones, one of the victims, getting stalked by the Zodiac. Cinematographer Harry Sadiev employs a wide shot framing both vehicles, emphasizing the stark contrast in lighting of the cars. The Zodiac's car remains shrouded in darkness, while Kathleen's vehicle is brightly lit. This deliberate choice not only establishes a sense of unease, but also underscores Kathleen's vulnerability. The imbalancing lighting visually isolates her, making her an exposed target, whereas the Zodiac is concealed in the shadows. Furthermore, it can be seen that the camera remains primarily focused on Kathleen and rarely ever shifts to the Zodiac. This deliberate framing by Sadiev immerses the audience in her perspective, highlighting the sense of suspense since she cannot fully see the threat of the man, and neither can the audience. And when the shots do shift to the Zodiac, Sadiev deliberately uses lighting to obscure his face, further intensifying the sense of mystery and unease. Similarly, just like in Memories of Murder, Sadiev creates suspense by not showing where the killer is. In this sequence, by keeping him off screen, the viewers are also left unaware of where the killer might be. Therefore, the audience is left to imagine the killer's next move, amplifying the sense of danger and anticipation. However, unlike in Memories of Murder, 3 of the 4 murders and attacks by the Zodiac take place in cars. This reflects the increase in car ownership due to the rapid growth of suburbs during the 1960s, because by 1970, only 17.5% of households did not have a vehicle. Finally, in the murder mystery genre, there's always a point where investigators find valuable information that could potentially solve their case. Therefore, both Bong and Fincher use unexpected revelations and silent narrative shifts in their film to create suspense. For instance, Bong's chase scene between the detectives and suspect Jo Bong-sun is especially suspenseful. This is because up until this point in the film, it has been a long time since they had any significant leads in the investigation, and therefore, finding that prime suspect is a narrative shift that heightens the excitement and anticipation, keeping the audience fully engaged in the case. The suspense comes from the possibility of losing this opportunity, combined with the uncertainty of whether the suspect is truly the serial killer, which keeps the tensions high and the stakes even higher. During the chasing, Bong employs a soundtrack, Sprinting in the Moonlight, composed by Taro Iwashiro, that includes a combination of drums and cello that creates a sense of urgency. The rhythmic pounding of the drums mimics the rapid, heavy footsteps of the detectives, and therefore evoking a growing desperation as they close in on the suspect. Later, the cello with its slow, brooding, deep tones complements the drums by adding a sense of foreboding, as the detectives are about to catch the suspect. A key shifting point in the Zodiac happens at the end of the narrative when Robert Graysmith discovers that Arthur Lee Allen's birthday matches the date of the Zodiac. Therefore, he goes to the police station to access the files because he's determined to confirm his theory that Arthur is the Zodiac killer. During this sequence, there is a sense of anticipation as Robert is getting closer to what he believes is the truth about the murder cases. Fincher's mise-en-scene heightens the sense of suspense by positioning Robert just outside the police station, unable to enter. This visual choice emphasizes how close he is in solving the case, which is only a single door standing in his way. Notably, due to the geographical locations of each murder, different police departments from different jurisdictions often operated independently with limited communication and collaboration, which may have been why the Zodiac Killer wasn't caught, since at the time there was very little interagency cooperation. Overall, both directors effectively elect suspense by using the genre's narrative elements and combining them with their own cinematic techniques.